Welcome back to Focus on South Texas. Now, we're just coming up on the heels of 2013, and normally on this show, we like to have guests on who are promoting something that's about to happen. Well, in this case, I just thought it was such a neat story. Even though this project just ended, I had to bring these ladies on because of just how you came together, and I'll let you explain that, but I first need to explain that we did not plan this. Oh, yes, I don't know if you can tell. Yeah, stripes. I think we've decided that Shannon is the hybrid of us. So this is Ciaravino. She's the president and CEO of the Playhouse, formerly known as the San Pedro Playhouse, right? Okay, the Playhouse. And then Shannon Ivey, assistant professor at TLU. Yes. So the Playhouse just had a wonderful production called Annie. I actually had tickets to it. Great, great, great. And you, Asia, decided to do something special with this production. So how did this come together? How did you two connect?
It's so funny because Facebook can be our enemy, but in this case, it was definitely our hero.
It's my enemy.
It's definitely our hero. And one day I saw Shannon post something about the Legacy Ranch kids, and I knew that we had to help. Thinking about them not having a Christmas present was something that haunted me, seriously. And so I think I emailed you and said, Shan, we've got to make something right. We have to give them a present. And so I decided to donate tickets from Annie to them so that they'd have a Christmas present.
And they were so excited about.
Well, I guess how appropriate, because Annie is about abandoned or orphaned kids. So
absolutely. And I really initially, Cynthia, thought, oh, wow, that's way too close to the bone. We shouldn't do something like that. But on the contrary, that's what theater for social change is really addressing the issues. And so it was a perfect match.
Well, and Shannon, tell me about Legacy Ranch, and what was the plea that you put on Facebook that would have grabbed someone's attention? Because I see stuff on Facebook all the time, and I'm just like, you just scroll past it, because everyone seems to always be having some sort of campaign, but obviously it touched Asia.
Well, I've been working with foster to adopt children for a while. I just moved from LA. I was working with them out here. And so I started working in the San Antonio area because there's a huge need. Texas is the second largest state for having foster kids in the system. It's a huge need. 30,000 in 2011 kids in the system.
That's the population of Seguin, which, by the way, is where TLU is.
Right, and I think the number for San Antonio was 3,500 in 2011. So this is a huge problem. And Legacy Ranch came to me and they said, hey, because I'm a dramatic media professor, they're like, do you have any entertainment? We started talking, and they were talking about the gifts for these kids, and that the toy drive didn't do as well, and we needed to find some gifts for these kids. And so that immediately sent me, my sister, we kind of went nuts. We were like, there's no way that kids are not going to have a present for Christmas. We sent the word out 4 days prior to the Christmas party. 4 days. And we got 150 backpacks. We got 150 Bibles donated. Teddy bears. I mean, State Farm. There were so many people in the San Antonio community that was like, no way, not on my dime. And HEB, they all donated. So she comes up and she was just like, is this too close to home, Shannon? I was like, no. This is exactly what we do, because our program, we talk so much about theater for social change and having some sort of moral compass in the art that you do. And Asia has that same philosophy with the Playhouse, and so it just kind of all meshed.
Well, and this is, I swear I am sort of into the whole theatrical community, because Asia is a local actress and host of a TV show, and so I've been to some of your plays, but this is the first I've heard of theater for social change. Is this something new, or am I just completely out of it?
No, I don't think that it's new, actually, but I think that the light has been shown on it a lot more lately, because our lives are so busy and crazy that now we need to do everything all at once. So you want to go see a show, you want to have a high impact, and this gives you that opportunity. Especially with Annie, I was really like, we have to do something amazing that touches people's lives. We're already entertaining them. Why don't we help kids that aren't able to have a Christmas?
Well, and what was interesting when we were putting the panel discussion for our adoption awareness night, the community came in and said, yes, we really want to be a part of this. Child Protective Services was involved. A private adoption agency here in town was involved. The Adoption Angels, Legacy Ranch, everybody wanted to say, yes, we want to get involved, because it's a new way to send a message and get everybody involved in this. And it's not a new way. It's been going on for thousands of years. But I think think that with the advent of all of these nonprofit organizations, this is a different way that's above giving just a pamphlet.
Right.
Absolutely. That's a great way to connect to other organizations. Right. I mean, working with TLU and all of the great synergy that we have there, bringing students in and having them volunteer and be a part of this and feel like they can be engaged in the theater and in the larger community, you can't get better than that.
And so this forum was after, okay, so the kids saw the play on the 19th, and then you had the forum after, and exactly what did that entail?
Well, what we did is we put this out to the community saying anybody who's interested in the foster to adopt world, this is the place you need to go. So we had Annie from 7 to 9, and then just a 20-minute discussion with experts from all over San Antonio in that field, and it was a great discussion. And while that was going on, the foster kids who were in the audience got to go and meet the cast and Sandy the dog at the lobby.
It was so cool. They got Sandy the dog, Sandy the dog. It has these emotional connections that you're able to make with theater. Live theater gives you that opportunity to have those special connections in the same space with someone as opposed to on a screen or a phone or whatever, and then they're able to actually have a dialogue about what happened in the play afterwards. And the panel discussion was about the adoption awareness and foster awareness, but out in the lobby, the children actually got to talk to the cast members and say, I could do this someday. I could have a career in the theater world. I could entertain. I mean, it's just incredible.
Well, you just never know when you're going to inspire somebody, and you never, or you know, touch them in some way like that. And I just think what a brilliant idea, though, for the Playhouse, because you know, normally you guys would just be ticking along, but since you've come on board, it seems like you guys are really getting even more involved in the community.
That's because we're doing theater, I feel like, that really matters, and defining the why. If you don't have a why you're doing the show, then you shouldn't be doing it. And why, the why of Annie has so many different elements. The love that they have, the adoption that happens, the hope, the amazingness of all of it. I mean, those themes, everything that we can express, we want to express in many different layers, as opposed to just the falseness of, oh, you're doing an entertaining in a play. You can also actually change the community that you're living in through the theater, and that is the most amazing gift for me.
I actually have chills up my right leg because I was just thinking about the hope. You know, it's the holidays. I mean, what perfect timing. Was it just an accident that you guys put Annie right around the holidays?
No, it's absolutely purposeful.
Well, and you know, we were talking the other day that everything kind of lined up, though, as far as because there's something to be said about watching a story about an orphan and then having 150 foster kids in the audience. There's something to be said for that.
It was a beautiful, amazing,
spiritual moment. It's a really cool moment. Yeah.
Just to give them that hope. Now the goosebumps are right here on my arms.
Well, in San Antonio, they rallied around these kids because there's a load of them. I mean, there are loads of kids in shelters all over the city. And San Antonio, the minute that they found that out, you'd be amazed. I mean, businesses that normally, you know, are a little skittish, you know, we give to loads of charities. That's not what happened. They found out that these kids had a need, and everybody came rushing to their aid. It was fantastic.
Because there are many amazing people in San Antonio.
Yeah, well, and that's so refreshing to hear. Since I've been filling out on Focus, it seems like everyone that we've had, all the guests on the shows, you know, from the food bank to Haven for Hope, they have all mentioned how giving San Antonio has been, especially in the past few months. So hopefully this is the tide has turned as far as the economy goes, because I know at one point everybody was struggling and it was hard to get some of those donations. So that's really good to hear. And I do have another question, though. You know, you'd mentioned, 30,000 kids in foster care who need to be adopted. Is it mostly like older kids? Because you tend to hear that a lot of the older ones.
0 to 17. 0 to 17.
Really?
And the thing about it is that their stories, unfortunately, they top one another. And you think you've heard it all when you start working with these kids, and then one of them just tops the other. And so it's really 0 to 17, and the need is so enormous. And so anybody, and what they're looking for is a safe place for them to go. I mean, a safe place for these kids to find their path. And the sad ones is when they age out of the system. And then imagine having your entire adult life without a family.
Yeah.
And so this is what we were doing. We were raising awareness to that particular need. And Texans are answering the call, it seems, which is really great.
We have a great community.
I'm so glad to hear that, because I even think you know, I have a little baby, and I just think, gosh, the decision that a parent has to make to give up their child, I mean, they must be in a pretty bad situation, because the thought of not being there for her is just devastating. And, you know, just or if something had happened to me, you know, her growing up without a mommy, it's heartbreaking. And so I just can't even imagine how these kids must feel.
Right, which is why using the element of storytelling is so important. That's why theater for social change is important.
Absolutely.
Because you're using a story that sometimes you can distance yourself away from. Because if you sit there and tell somebody, oh, I was holding a 9-week-old who had 9 broken bones from abuse, that story sometimes is hard to digest. Whereas if you do with Annie, and you have songs, and you have this production, there's a level of safety, and then you present these things afterwards, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, so this is a real problem. We need to talk about it.
And we as theater artists, I think we have the obligation to do that in the community, and to fight for change, and to fight for what's good for our kids, and for education, and all the amazing people that need help.
Well, and you're a singing girl, and I have to say, Texas Lutheran, they completely stepped up. They looked at this entire thing, and they were like, 2 seconds flat. We need to help these kids.
My people.
Yeah, they're your people. They're your people. And it was really, I mean, it completely goes along with their mission. They said, this is what we need to do. And so the partnership is pretty
Stars
cool.
aligned.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. And again, I just wanted to point out the success story, because I know that we're going to hear a lot more of this in 2013. And then I'll just bring you ladies right back on, and we'll continue the conversation. So thanks, Asia and Shannon, for being here.
Thanks, Cynthia.
We'll have your community calendar after the break.